Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back. Today's Daf Yomi is BECHOROS Memches. We begin right on top of the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, Misha loy bichro. So a fellow whose wife had not yet given birth, it's her first. And she gives birth to twin boys. Okay, so one is a Bechor and one is the second comer. We don't know which one is which. So he owes one Pidyon Haben. No, he's saying Heis Loim L'Koyin. Okay, so even though you can't identify the first one, but you know between the two of them, one of them is firstborn. And the father transfers 5 sel to the Koyin on account of the Bechor, whichever he is. Now, suppose one of these newborns passes away before the obligation had been activated, before 30 days. So the chiyuv of Pidyon Haben only arrives at 30 days. It's still before, and one child passes away. So now, ha'av pater, father's exempt completely because perhaps it was the Bechor that passed away. Fine. Me'esa'af, suppose it's the other way around. The father passes away before doing any Pidyon Haben. We have the kids right here. They're ready to make their own Pidyon Haben. The question is, are they even obligated? You don't know which one to claim. Well, you go to Reuben, he says, no, it's my brother. You approach Shimon, he shifts it back to Reuben. So do they have to or not? Rameh or Imar? Well, it depends. Im nasnu, ach lo yicholku nasnu. If they transfer the 5 sel to the Kohen before they divided the father's estate, nasnu, okay, whatever is given is given. And the Parshim explained even if they haven't yet given. The point of the Mishnah is if it's still before division of the estate, okay, the father was obligated to give one set of pidyon on account of both of them, so the estate is obligated. And in turn, they're obligated as well to offer one set of $5. Vimlav, but otherwise, let's say they have already divided the property. To each his own. Which one are you going to claim? Who are you going to approach? Each one will shift it on the other one. Vimlav, betur, Rabbi Daimer, no, in Schayv Nusach Chasam. In the Chasam, the assets have already been tagged, have already been obligated. During the father's lifetime, Rashi says, like a Baal Chayv, like money that he owes, like any borrower who owes money, and therefore they have to pay off their father's debt. Rashi says on the 5th line, between both of them, work it out. You got to pay up your father's debt. Okay, now Zachor Nekeva, suppose his wife gives birth to twins, but this time it's boy and girl, and it's unknown which one was first. So it's possible the girl was first. Ein kan the Kohen klum. The Kohen gets nothing in this case. Now let's go back to the first. Twin boys, one Bechor, one is not. Identity unknown. Father passes away. Mishnah says, according to our mayor, well, if it's still before division of the assets, yeah, they're chai, but otherwise they're pater. Now, what about the timing factor? When did he pass away? Before 30 days? In which case the chiyuv was not yet activated, or after 30 days? The mis ha'av, emas, when did he pass away? Ilaim the mis lachar lamed, it's past 30 days. So the chiyuv has already been activated on his assets. In this case, Rabbi would say if they go ahead and divided their pater, why? It's too late. The nechas matter had already been obligated. It's too late. Rashi says, the chayv ma'al yehu. It's a legitimate debt. I mean, how could they absolve themselves of their father's debt? Apparently he passed away within 30 days, before the chiyuv had been chal, before it took effect. Now it's their money, the kids' money. But Maishna Kicholku. So what difference does it make whether they already divided the properties? Where Rameir says they're pater. Why? Because you're a monkey in the middle. Who are you gonna claim from? I mean, each son will shift it on the other one. The Azal Gabi Hai, if the Kohen would approach Ruvain, he will shift him to Shimon. The Azal Gabi Hai goes to Shimon, he'll push him away. So there's no way to claim. So Kiloi Cholku Nami. Well, the same exact scenario would unfold even before they divide. Who are you going to claim from? Who are you going to collect from? Each one will turn around and say, it's my brother. Lezel Gabi, you approach this fellow, he'll reject you. But Lezel Gabi, go to the other one, push you away as well. So why is Rameir obligating the sons? Who are you going to obligate? Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Zois Aymer. So we learn from here an interesting chidush. Suppose you have two people, Shnei Yosef and Shimon. Both people are named Yosef and Shimon. Show you their achs living in the same city. And you know you borrowed from one of them. You have a loan document on a fellow Yosef and Shimon. $1 million loan. Now, we don't know if it's this fellow or this fellow. So truthfully, you can't really approach each individual separately because each one will deflect it to the other one. But let's say, if it so happens, they embarked, the two Yosef and Shimons decided to embark on a partnership. They purchased a property together. They bought a field b'shutfus. Lucky balchayv. Now you can go collect half the property on account of the Yosef and Shimon who owes them money. Look, you're right. I can't pinpoint which one it is, but I do know that my Yosef and Shimon has half ownership on this property. Balchayv goyva oisa mehem. Because you can say, look, yeah, I'm not really sure who I'm collecting from, but it's between both of you that I'm owed the money. So I can collect at least up until 50% of this property, which belongs to my debtor. Because you can tell him, if my claim is on you, okay, I'm collecting yours. Mansa, your portion, the dach yours, kashikol, I'm taking yours. If I'm claiming on your friend, Mansa, the charach kashikol, okay, I'm taking his part. So either way, he can walk away with half the property. So the same could be said over here. Look, between the two sons, one owes the money to the Kohen, so the Kohen can now collect on that debt from the joint estate, because inevitably he's owed that money by one of these partners. Amar Rava, says Rava, I don't understand. How could you go ahead and collect in this manner? The fact is, the right, the privilege to collect from one's assets. What's that based on? The fellow owes you money, not his assets. The answer is, it's like an uri, like a guarantor. Like, you sign on a loan, sign up as a guarantor. One's properties are his guarantors. They back up for the person. Person doesn't pay, his house pays. Okay. Now, in the case of the Yosef ben Shimon, I understand the owing fellow knows deep down in his heart that he owes the money. He knows who he is, right? So he should be paying. He's just trying to, wiggle out, so you go to his properties, wherever it is. But in this case of the Bechor, it's an unknown. It's inherently unknown. It's a perpetual suffix. You don't know. So technically, you could never go after them, and they themselves don't even know. They're not chayav to pay. So how could you go ahead and collect on their properties? You can't go to the person. How could you go to the property, which is just backing up for the person? Amar of a michte, look, nichsei de barinish. Nichsei de nechassim de barinish of a person. Why are they obligated? In an arvin bay, they're like his arev, back up the person. How could you have a situation till the day You can't be tevead the day the person himself or lo arev matzi tava. Like you can go collect from the arev. But now we have a mishnah with a real arev. You can't do that. Hamal v'sahaveroi ay de arev. If a fellow lends money using a guarantor, so there's a guarantor involved. Lo from an arev. You can't collect from the arev. We learn that the mishnah means to say lo from an arev tchila. You can't go to the arev first, unless you first make an attempt to collect from the loive, from the borrower, and he doesn't have. Okay, so then, next step is the arev. But he's only there to back up the obligation of the loive. But in our case, with the loive himself, so to speak, the bechor himself has no obligation. How could he go collect from the properties? Elam Rabbi says, Rabbi, I'll tell you what's going on in the Mishnah. Truthfully, the father passed away after 30 days since birth. In which case, the obligation, the chi of the mitzvah of pidin haben has already been activated on his properties. So now, when it gets transferred to his kids, those kids have to satisfy their father's debt, which already been applied on the property. Now, if you have ample properties to satisfy the whole 5 selah, of course, there would be no question. The kohen would take the $5 and go home. So there's no question. So here we understand, because the property is there to back up the loan, the obligation that the father had already been committed to. Of course the kohen would take the full amount. So what's the machlekes about in the Mishnah? You know what we're talking about? There isn't enough to go around. You only have 5 selah in total on the full estate, only 5 selah, which is actually the full amount of pidin haben, but you can't give it to the kohen. He doesn't have a right to collect on the full amount. You know why? Now, in trying to explain the machlekes in the Mishnah, right? Rameir says that if they haven't yet divided the properties and it's still in the father's name, so to speak, then you have to, forward the money to the kohen. Rabbi just says no, and otherwise Rameir says if once they divided it, they're exempt. Rabbi just says either way. Rabbi just says they have to pay. So how do we explain the machlekes? So again, we're speaking that the father already been obligated. It's already past 30 days. As in the chosim, his properties have already been tagged. Now he passed away, right? Get transfers to his kids. And they divided the properties. And there isn't really enough to go around. There's only 5 selah all around between both brothers. Okay. So that's the first notion. Next, everybody, Rav Meir, Rav Yudah, are aligned with Rav Asi's explanation, his definition of how inheritance works. Damar Vasi, Rasi says like this. You can consider Yerusha in 2 ways. 2 brothers divide the father's estate. How are we meant to understand it? So Reuben gets half, Shimon gets the other half. Was this meant for them initially? Bashkacha pratis, it was meant for them, right? You say the Yerusha went directly from the father to the Reuven on this part, and likewise this part from father to Shimon. Or do you say, no, it's really, a collective entity. And they have to go ahead and sort of negotiate, so to speak, between themselves. Okay, I'll take this part instead of you taking, you'll take that part instead of me, and I'll take this, right? They're sort of swapping. Because really each, 1 or 2 brothers has a full right to each granule of property. So it's sort of like a swap. It's almost like a purchase. An exchange. You're allowing me your part in this half for my part in your half. So Ravasi says, I'm really not sure which way. Was it initially meant for them, or is there a swap going on? Ravasi, I'm not sure, and therefore we treat it like part and part. 2 brothers divide property. So we'll consider half Yerusha, like direct inheritance from the father, and half like a transaction. Which means to say, he's a suffix, he's not sure how to deal with it. So we give it an element of this and that, okay? Now, next point to know, all agree, a loan, so to speak, an obligation, which was dictated by the Torah. Rashi says on the Yemen base, Kigon Pidin Haben, Heisloim, which the Torah granted to the Kohen. Lav Kiksuba B'Shtar Dam. It's not considered like it was formalized in the document. Rather, it's like a verbal commitment. It doesn't have the same teeth as a formal document, which allows you to collect from, to impose a lien on the property and collect from purchasers who purchased the property from your borrower after the loan, right? So it doesn't give you that ability. You can only collect from the person himself or his Yerushim, but not from. The next point to know. Everybody holds Isl de Rav Papa. They go with Rav Papa, who tells us another rule. Rav Papa, Milva al Peh, if it's a verbal loan only, so you have the right to collect from the principal and from his Yerushim if he passes away. But you can't collect from the Kuchas. That's unfair, because how would they know that this money was borrowed by the father? They're going to buy property innocently. So you can't do it unless there's a shtar, which makes it public knowledge and spreads awareness about this loan, and buyers beware. But otherwise, you can't turn around and collect from the Kuchas. So now a case, it's a matter of collecting the 5 sela, which we said is a mulva b'torah, which is not like a shtar, it's like a verbal commitment, which allows you to collect from Yerushim, not from buyers. So let's fast forward. We have these 2 brothers who divided the property, and we explained that according to Rav Asi, it's considered partial Yerusha, from which the kohen can collect, right? But partial is lekucha, it's like it partially purchased from each other, it's partially lekuches, which leaves the kohen out of the equation. You can't collect from lekuches. So now, of the total inheritance, which is only 5 sela, you could at most access only 2.5 sela, the part that's considered Yerusha. The question is, when the kohen is granted the ability to collect 5 sela, what if he can't collect 5? Can he collect even 2.5? Or is it just 5 or nothing? That's the machlekes. Rameir says, it's either 5 or nothing. In this case, you can't collect 5. Chamish, you can't collect half of 5, so you're out. Rabbi Savar, he says, no. Even though ideally you collect 5 chamish, but if you can't get what you could, and that explains why Rabbi holds that even in this case, the kohen has access to at least whatever he can collect. So in concept, Rabbi agrees to Rameir that the most he can collect is 2.5, but he allows you to do that. So the question is the wordology. If that's the case, Rabbi Omer, why does Rabbi respond to Rameir? He should have said, okay, I'll give him even 2.5. No, he uses the words neschayv and nechasim, which sounds like he's making a revolution. No, we have a different approach to the whole thing than a chasim or chayv. He could have simply said, chayiv gavra, the person's chayiv to give whatever he gives. That's how he should respond to Rameir, if it's not a conceptual, fundamental difference of opinion here. V'oitani comes another kasha on Rabba's understanding of the machlekes. We have a brayso. Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yehuda says, in this case, ha'achanu, we have 2 brothers, one of them being a bechor, but identity unknown. Shachok. Now they divided the father's assets after his passing. Are they obligated? Well, it depends how much money there is in total. If this brother ended up with 10 zuz being 2.5 sela, because each sela is 4 zuz, likewise, his brother received 10 zuz, so it's 5 sela in total between both of them. Chayav, and they're obligated to do the pidin haben. Bimlav, otherwise, if there's less than that in total, then they are both exempt peturin. End quote. Now, what exactly did he mean? My asara zuz lazeh. V'asara zuz lazeh. What does he mean when he says 10 zuz per person? Ilema. Does it mean bein di rusha, bein di lekuchais? That this is the total amount, encompassing all elements of this inheritance. The part that we consider a Yerusha, which is subject to this obligation of pidin haben, right? Ben de lekuches, and it also encompasses the lekuches part, the transactional, purchased, so to speak, part, which is not bound to the pidin haben, as we explained before. So in total we have 5, but in reality they will only have to transfer 2.5 as per the Yerusha element. How? Because although ideally you meant to get 5, even if you have half that amount or even less, you're obligated. Okay, so is that what Rabbi Yehuda means? He means to say that I disagree with Rabbi Meir. That 5 is 5, and any less than that has no purpose. Even if it's less than 5, give what you could. If that's the correct explanation, Yachi, so why does he specifically cite the number 10 zuz for a total of 5 sela? Any amount, basically, would obligate you. Yachi, if that's the case, if you can obligate him on even less than 5, why specify that each one ended up with 10 zuz for a total of 5, from which only 2.5 is given? Why pin yourself down on that amount? Even if each fellow ends up with less than 10 zuz, in which case the total amount less than 5 sela, in which case the amount that will be given to the kohen will be less than 2.5. The amount is irrelevant. You meant to give whatever you could. Ella, pshita. Apparently we're mistaken in our understanding of Rabbi Yehuda's position. Because when he says Asor Azus, he meant Asor Azus the Yerusha Lazeh. He was referring specifically only to the Yerusha element within this inheritance. The part that is bound to the kohen, that part that is obligated. And he meant that each brother received a total of 10 zuz, i.e. 2.5 sela, of Yerusha. Asor Azuz the Yerusha Lazeh to this brother, V'asor Azuz the Yerusha Lazeh to the other brother. So 10 to you, which means 5 sela in total, of Yerusha, which is only 50% of the inheritance. Which has another half, which is the lekuchais element, which is another 5 sela. So in total is 10 sela, 5 of which is bound to the kohen, because it's considered Yerusha. And in fact, the kohen will get a full 5. And only then are you obligated, because you can achieve the proper pidyon, the proper amount. Alma, apparently, chamish, the Torah's number 5, is as is. You have to do 5, no less. Any less doesn't cut it. Rabbi also agrees to this concept. In contrast to Rabba's explanation, that only Rabbi Meir insists on 5, but Rabbi Yehuda allows even less than 5. Ella, you're right. You have to switch around the whole explanation. The kuliyam chamesh lechatzi chamesh. Apparently, all agree to this concept. Pidin haben can only be executed with 5 sela. If you have less than that, don't even try. Even Rabbi agrees to that. We see that from the way he presents this scenario. And you're only obligated if you have enough to go around. So what then is the machlekes about? Rabbi Meir says, well, if you can end up less than 5, don't bother. Why does Rabbi obligate them? Rashi explains. There were a couple of givens, a couple of notions, a couple of premises that we were working with. So all agree it's got to be 5 and no less. But there was a question of how to classify this inheritance. Is it completely bound to the Pidin Haben, like any Yerusha, or is it considered lekuchais, like purchased? That was one question. Right? So perhaps Rabbi disagrees on that. He says, no, it's completely considered a Yerusha, so it's completely mishubet, it's bound to the Pidin Haben, so you're not lacking funds. Rav Papa, there was another aspect that we spoke about, Rav Papa's point, that the milva al peh, this sort of verbal obligation, you can't access lekuchais. Perhaps he'll hold that you could. So even if part of the inheritance is considered lekuchais, as if they exchange it and they purchase from each other, it's still bound to Pidin Haben. Okay, so there's machlekes, but not regarding whether you can get away with partial payment. Everyone agrees partial doesn't work. Rabbi Yehuda says you have enough to go around because it's all bound to the Pidin Haben. In contrast to Rav Meir, who says no, only the Yerusha part, not the Lekuchas part. inevitably you end up with less than 5, it doesn't work. So this was the first version of this discussion, that it was related to Rav Meir, and the question was, how does this work? We explained based on Rava, right? Rava presented that we're speaking right? So we have 2 brothers, one of them a bechor. The father has to forward 1 set of 5 sela. Now, if the father died, the Rava explained he died after 30, so the Yechasim were already obligated. And the question is whether the brothers have to forward the 5 sela. Ramir says no, because ultimately, once they divided it, it's already a partial lukuchais, and you can end up with only 2.5 sela to the kohen. Rabbi says, forward the full 5 to the kohen. Bigger the maslan seifa some apply this whole discussion to the second part, meaning to the words of Rabbi Yehuda, who says in the Schayv Anachasim, even in this case, when the father passed away and they already divided, the assets are obligated, no exemptions. And the question was, the Misa Av Emas, when, at what point did the father die? The Meis Lachal Shleishim, did he die after 30 days? In which case the obligation already kicked in, and the assets already chayiv. Mechlal the Rameir Savar Ki Cholka P'turin. Okay, that's good according to Rabbi Yehuda, but why does Rameir disagree? He says, just because they divided the assets, they're potter. Too late. The Nechasim were already tagged, already chayiv. El B'tei Shleishim. Apparently he died before the Chiv was activated, before 30 days passed. So the question is, good, Rameir is good, but according to Rabbi Yehuda, Ki Cholka my Chayiv Rabbi Yehuda, so now if they split the assets, why does Rabbi Yehuda say they have to pay? Who are you going to go to? Who are you going to claim? You're going to go to Reuven? He'll deflect it to Shimon. He'll go to Shimon, he'll say, no, Reuven is the Bechor, not me. Le'ezel Gabehai. The Kohen approaches Reuven, he'll shift him over to his brother. Gabehai approaches Shimon, send him to Reuven. Rabbi Yirmiyah, says Rabbi Yirmiyah, we learn from here an interesting concept. Shnei Yosef ben Shimon, Shoyu bir echad. So you lent money to a fellow Yosef ben Shimon. So it happens there were 2 people with the same name in the town, and each one is denying that he's the one. Shoyu bir echad. So in the meantime, you're stuck. You can't really approach either. It so happens that you're tracking them, and one Yosef ben Shimon purchased a property from the other one. So now we have a right to collect either way. So the Baal Chayiv can come and collect from him. Why? He says, look, either way I'm good. If you're my leiva, hand it over. If the seller is my leiva, then he had no right selling you something which was leaned to me. If it's on you that I have my claim, mansa, the portion, the dach of yours, your portion, I'm taking, I'm collecting your portion, you owe it to me. If my claim is on your good friend, the seller, well, guess what? There's a gersa umishtabda. Well, this property was bound to me before it sold to you. So likewise over here, it's true that the father was out of the picture before the chiyuv kicked in, and one of these sons are chayiv to pay. But now that they divided and they sort of allocated the assets, and Rashi explains that Rabbi Yehuda will hold, according to this approach, Rabbi Yehuda will hold that it's l'kuchais. We don't say, well, whatever you ended up with was meant for you. We say, listen, it's one big pot, and they're sort of flipping and exchanging with each other. You take this part, I take that part, right? It's like a deal, it's like a sale. Okay, but ultimately, whatever is in your hands is bound to me regardless, whether you're the bechor or whether your brother who gave it to you gave you something which was bound to the kohen, so I have a right to collect it. On this, Rava had a kasha, I'm a Rava, so this is very similar to the previous version. Michte, look, I mean, if you can't approach and claim from the person directly, then you can't access his assets either. His assets are just a security to back up the person's obligations. If you can't successfully collect from the person, how can you go to his assets? And the person you can't access because you don't even know who owes you the money. Look, a person's assets are his arei, his guarantors. And then we proceeded just as the first version with all the kashas and the answers, and we explained, Ramir's opinion and Rav Yuda's opinion the same way we concluded in the first version. Okay, so in a nutshell, we have a Mishnah where it's her first time giving birth, twins. One is a bechor. We simply don't know which one. So if one died within 30 days, the father's exempt. Maybe the bechor died, but if the children are alive and well, and the father's the one who died, the children are around, Rabbi says, go ahead and between both of them, you're entitled to collect. Rabbi says, well, it depends. Before division, yeah, but after division, they're pater. And we had a lengthy explanation to understand these shittas. Says the next Mishnah. Now we have shtei nashim, shlei bichru. Rashi says, shtei nashim shel echad. Okay, one husband, Yaakov, and he had two wives, Rachel and Leah. Shlei bichru, it's their first time giving birth. V'yodah shnei scharim. Mazel tov, each one had a firstborn son. Okay, so he knows, both are bechorim, no question there. Noisen, yutzlam l'koyin, $10 to the koyin. Meis echad mem tech shleishim yoyim. Okay, so now, tragedy struck, and one passed away within 30 days. Before he was obligated in Pidyon HaBen. So the father, for some reason, already gave the money ahead, advance payment for the Pidyon HaBen. How this works, we'll see tomorrow in tomorrow's daf how this works. But he forwarded the money, pending the child's, arriving at day 30 alive and well, at which point the Pidyon HaBen will kick in. But unfortunately, the child died before that point. So the father is entitled to a refund. But it really depends. Im l'koyin echad nasan. If he gave the full 10 selah to one koyin, then he has a right to demand a refund, a partial refund on 5. Ya'asr lechamish shloim, the koyin refunds him $5. But v'im l'shnei kohanim nasan, suppose he gave the 10 selah to 2 kohanim. Now, each kohen can claim, the money I have is for the live child. Because you didn't label them, right? No sons, even though one passes away, he has no way to get his money back. Because each one can say, look, I'm the one that's holding the money for the rightful Pidyon HaBen. Zachar or Nekeva. Okay, back to the same story. We have Yaakov, the husband, with Rachel and Leah, 2 wives, first-timers. We have double Mazel Tov, but a Zachar and Nekeva. So only one is a Bechor, right? Zachar and Nekeva, Oishnei Schar and Nekeva, or we have a total of 3, 2 boys and a Nekeva. In this case, we don't know whether he owes for 1, or maybe even for 2. We don't know who came out first. Noisein Chamesh Shloim the Kohen, he owes $5 to the Kohen. So, as we're going to see in this Mishnah, the recurring theme here is that when there is an unknown, you're exempt, which is an interesting point because really, Pidyon HaBen, true, there's a monetary aspect to it, as per the payment to the Kohen, but it's really a Torah obligation. You can say it's like Isser v'Heter, it's a Chiyuv. You have a personal obligation to satisfy the Pidyon on the Bechor. But apparently we see that the Chiyuv of the father really hinges upon the monetary element of this process. So if there's any uncertainty, any suffix, for which we would apply, in general, monetary matters, we would apply the concept of Amoitzi Mechaver or the Raya. The one who's looking to extract money has to prove his claim, and in absence of such proof, the fellow's exempt. Likewise, we would apply that concept here as well. So sort of the starting point is the monetary aspect, and if you're pater, then there's no chiyuv at all for Pidyon HaBen. Interesting. Okay, so since you don't know, Zachar Nekeva or Shnei Schar Nekeva, it could well be that there were 2 Bechorim, and maybe not, maybe it's only 1, so $5. Noisin Chamesh Shleim L'Kohen. Shtei Nekevas of Zachar, in the case we had 2 girls and a boy, In which case it could be that the Zachar came out second. Shnei Zcharim, Shnei Nekevos, or two Zacharim, two Nekevos. Likewise, it could be that there is no firstborn boy. Ein kan the Kohen klum, the Kohen gets nothing. Achas bichra, v'achas shlei bichra. The same husband, two wives. One bichra is a veteran, one is a first timer. Yolda Shnei Zcharim, and the Mazel Tov, two boys. And Rashi, by the way, explains that this whole thing happened in a dark room, in a cave, and there was a mix-up. We don't know which boy, which girl, who came from which mother, right? We have two boys. So he gives 5 sellers to the Kohen on account of the one Bechor. Ultimately, there was one Bechor, right? Now, suppose one dies before 30 days. Could be the Bechor died, and therefore Av Pater, father is exempt. Mesav, suppose the kids are alive, but the father passed away. The children are alive, now they're bar mitzvah, they want to take care of the pidin haben. We don't know which one is chayiv, but between both of them, there is one chiyuv for that bechor. Rameh Omer. So this is the same exact as the previous Mishnah. If they paid before they divided the assets, fine. Which means to say that the assets are still in the father's estate, they have to pay, because the father's obligation to address the pidyon on one of these sons carries over to the assets, even though he's no longer around. You'll have to turn. Otherwise, once they divide it, they're out, as we explained in the previous Gemara. The assets are obligated, which means to say they have to pay for one pidyon haben. Zachar and Nekeva. So back to this case where one woman is a veteran and one is a first timer, and they gave birth to a Zachar and Nekeva. We don't know which one what. In this case, Ein Kan the Kohen Klum. The Kohen doesn't get anything, because it could be that the first timer gave birth to the Nekeva. There's no Bechor. Part 2 of the Mishnah. Shtei Noshim Shtel Shtei Noshim. Here we have 2 husbands and 2 wives. Okay, so each husband has his wife. Shtei Noshim Shel Shnei Noshim Shloi Bichru, and both mothers are first timers. V'yodu BeChoros, they gave birth to 2 boys. And again, we don't have the identities. We don't know which mother gave birth to which kid, right? Well, we know there were 2 Secharim in total. Inevitably, each father owes for his kid. So he gives 5 sel to the Kohen. He pays 5 sel to the Kohen. Suppose one of these 2 infants died before 30. So he's certainly exempt, and they're due a refund if they paid in advance, right? Both fathers gave their pidyon to the same Kohen, so he knows that he's holding an extra $5. Yachshalem has to give them back the $5, and presumably they split it between themselves, right? Suppose Reuben gave his $5 to one Kohen, and Shimon gave it to the other Kohen. Now, even though one of the children died, they have no way to extract their money, because each Kohen can deflect the claim and say, look, I'm holding the rightful money, the one of the survivor. Zachar and Nekeva. Okay, so back to this case where the 2 husbands, right, had each one his wife, and they were first timers. And they gave birth to a Zachar and a Nekeva. Zachar is certainly a Bechor, is obligated in, but the Nekeva is Pater. But we don't know who's the father of the Zachar. In this case, obviously, Pater, both fathers are exempt. But that only pertains to them. The boy himself, ultimately, has to address his pidyon haben obligation when he grows up, because he's a Bechor. He can't pin it on his father, who's unknown, but personally he's got to take care of Ben Chayiv, Liftes Atzmai. Now let's say Shtei Nekevas v'Zachar. The woman gave birth to 2 Nekevas and a Zachar. It could be that there's no firstborn boy. Or Shtei Nekevas Shnei Zacharim, or 2 Nekevas and 2 Zacharim. In this case, Ein Kan the Kohen Klum, the Kohen gets nothing. Suppose Achas Bichra, Achas Shlei Bichra. One had already given birth in the past, and for the other one it's a first time. Each one had her own husband. And they both gave birth to boys. And we don't know whose son is which. So the fellow whose husband had not yet given birth, he knows it's her first time. He knows that somewhere in this mix he has his bechor. He has to send the check to the kohen. But let's say Zohar Nekeva, they gave birth to a Zohar Nekeva. Since we don't know who's to who, Ein kan l'kohen klum, kohen gets nothing. Because it could very well be that the Nekeva came from the first timer, in which case there's no bechor. Now let's zero in on the second part of the Mishnah. The two husbands of these two wives, both first timers, both gave birth to boys. Each father has to afford 5 sela to the kohen. If one son died premature, he died within 30 days. So it depends. If each father gave his 5 sela to his own kohen, so now we have 2 kohanim, each one with $5, there's no way to demand a refund because each kohen can claim that he has the rightful money. But if it was the same kohen recipient, he owes them a refund of $5. Ask the Gemara, what is the difference? Why is it that when we have 2 separate kohanim, each one in receipt of 5 sela, there's no way to extract your money? Because if you approach this kohen, he'll send them to the other kohen. Why are you coming to me? He's the one that has your money. He goes to the other kohen, he'll send them to this kohen. That's understood. Well, the same is kohen echad nami. Suppose both fathers gave their money to the same kohen. Now, one of these children died. We don't know which father is the one demanding the refund. So the kohen can turn to him and say, look, you have no business claiming a refund. Your child is alive and well. Well, you also have, right? He can sort of deflect just as well. Kohen echad nami, lezel l'gabei. So if the fellow goes to this kohen, so this fellow goes to this kohen, he can send them packing. Lezel l'gabei is a gish l'gabei with the extra hey, l'gabei to him. So he'll go to the other, he'll go to the kohen, the other father, will go to the gabei to this kohen, he can send them flying. So why is this any better? Amar Shmuel. No. Here, they can make a joint agreement. Turn to the next Talmud. Harsha. Harsha means, as she says on the top line, Shnei avos kasvu harsha ech l'chaver. Harsha is like a POA, like he's authorizing. It's either me or you, right? I'm authorizing you to collect on my behalf. Continues Rashi. Ubo bal harsha v'tavim imanavshach. So the fellow walks in with the harsha, approaches the kohen, and says, look, you owe me the money regardless. If it's mine, certainly. Im shali hachzer shali, if it belongs to me. Shali meis, if the son was mine, so refund me the $5. V'im shal chaver meis, if the child who died was my friend's, okay, then he's asking me to collect on his behalf. Achzer li shaloi, shari yesh harsha. Ask the Gemara, harsha? To collect money? They say, look, Asfidan. Adrachta is like a harsha. Amatatli. On properties, on real estate, you can do the harsha. Because it's there, it's collectible. It looks legit. But on metatlin, on movables, on monies, we don't get involved in, issuing the harsha, Rashi says, because on the 4th line, Rashi says, the hoil of einon be'en, mechzik shikr, since the metatlin is not tangible, it's not visible, it's not obvious that it's shem ein biyadim b'shal zeh klum v'chasim misadi hashikr. We don't get involved in signing this. It looks like possible falsehood because who says the money's really here? It says, right? So how could he do it on money? Says the Gemara, hani milecha de kafrei. When do we hesitate to do the harsha in this type of case when he denied the claims? So we don't really know if it's around. So we don't want to get involved in formulating documents on something which could very well not exist, not really be collectible. But in the case where he hadn't denied So he lent the guy money, he admits to the law, he's not denying it. So in this case, there's no reason to hesitate to write a harsha. And likewise over here, nobody's denying anything. It's just a question of who has a right to collect. Okay, so they join forces, they team up, they make the harsha, and they go to the kohen, he has to pay him back. Zochor nekeva, ha'aves paturin, the Bach changes to ha'aves paturin. That's the next case in the Mishnah. We have the two fathers, right? Each one with his wife, first timers. They gave birth to a boy and a girl. So the son, wherever he is, he has to ultimately be paid himself when he grows up. But there's no way to pin it on the father, because each father can claim, I'm the one with the nekeva. Tani Rav Huna added in his brayso another example, another case, to this picture. Shnei zechar nekeva. Ein kan l'kohen klum. In this very case, we had two fathers, two mothers, and there was two zecharim and a nekeva, and everything got mixed up. Ein kan l'kohen klum. Kohen is not entitled to anything. And in this case, we take it a step further. Even the boys don't have to address their own chiyuv because we don't even know what happened. It's just a safek bechor. It could very well be that first of all, it could be that in this case, look, there's certainly one bechor, two zecharim and a nekeva. So we have one woman gave birth to the nekeva, fine. Now the boys, well, certainly one boy is the firstborn boy, right? But we don't know who he is. Right? Each one can say, no, it's the other one. I'm the second birth. So in this case, even the boys themselves are pater when they grow up. In contrast to the previous case, that inevitably there was a bechor there, but the father couldn't be pinned down. But here, even amongst the two boys, we don't know which one is the bechor. So they're pater. Maybe I'm not the bechor, maybe he's the bechor. So the question is, why did our Mishnah delete this case? Why wasn't this included in the variables? But Tana Dedan, the answer is because it's true, he's not disagreeing with the fact, but it's because of symmetry considerations. You see, if you look back at the Mishnah, all the cases in the second part, which we're speaking about shtei nashim of two anashim, right, two husbands and two wives, were really mirrored. They matched the cases in the first part, where two wives of the same husband. So we were just looking for sort of a matching symmetry. That's why we didn't bring in this case. But in reality, of course, we agreed to it. Our Tana didn't list it amongst the cases given the B'shnei Anoshim Mishkachas. So since this halacha only applies in this type of case where there were, two fathers, Hud Mishkachas, then it's applicable. But if this same case would have happened with one husband and his two wives, it wouldn't work, because ultimately the father would have to pay out at least one pidyon for one bechor who's in this mix. So it would not have really fit into the slot in the first part of the Mishnah. That's why the Mishnah did not mention it, because it wouldn't be a matching result. In the first case, with the father being just one, he would have to pay. In the second case, it would be pater, so it's not exactly a symmetrical type of case. That's why it wasn't mentioned, but in theory, of course, he agrees to the halach. So interesting, we see an interesting concept that whenever there's some sort of suffix, in matters of pidyon ben, you go l'kula. And at times the father is pater, but the child would have to pay up for himself when he grows up to address his chiyuv of pidyon ben. Okay? All the best to you, and hatzlacha.